You remember the item on a naval officer attacking Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. Yeah, one of the subscribers commented about Anwar Sadat's attack. Well, it is similar to that, and it is also related to that. And so today we will have to talk about Anwar Sadat's attack. I want you to bear in mind two things. The first thing is that Anwar Sadat's attack or even assassination was done several years ahead of Rajiv Gandhi. I want also you to note that Anwar Sadat's attack led to his assassination. It led to him being killed. But Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was only slightly injured at the back of the head. I don't know whether it is the back of the head or at the neck, at the back of the neck. He was slightly injured, but Anwar Sadat died, was assassinated on that occasion. The other thing I want to talk about, one thing led to another, that is what they say. So Anwar Sadat's assassination led to some things, and then Rajiv Gandhi's also led to some things. Anwar Sadat, before the attack on Anwar Sadat, which I'll come to that, soldiers or members of the disciplined services, whenever they went for parades, they used to go with the guns, with the bullets. After the assassination of Anwar Sadat, it became a habit that when a visiting dignitary, like a head of state, head of government, or even visiting equivalent, when they came and they had to have a guard of honor, it was changed worldwide that they will no longer have bullets, live bullets in their guns. So just before the guest of honor, whom in military terms is called the reviewing officer, before the reviewing officer comes, all guns are inspected to be found that they do not have bullets. And even the askari swear, sina risasi wala maganda sa, na nikipatikana na risasi ama maganda sa nishtakiwe kwa mujibu wa sheria. So after that, it is assumed that if you are found with any bullet after the inspection, then it is not accidental, but it is with intentional. So after Anwar Sadat, it was stopped that no further live bullets. But then the naval officer, after some years, found that he could not smuggle bullet there, and then he decided to hit the prime minister with a gun. He hit him with a gun in a way that it appeared, I mean, it's just like you can hit somebody with a club, with a rungu. Now you understand. So today we are going to talk about Anwar Sadat. Anwar Sadat was an Egyptian president. He was an Egyptian president. Actually, he was the second Egyptian president. There was a public holiday. There was a public holiday, just like we have. And in Kenya, we used to have that, especially during Moi's time. People would go to Uhuru Park, where, first of all, soldiers would march. Then members of the disciplined forces would march. And then they would be followed by artillery, tankers, and so on. So it was such a march past that he was killed. As the soldiers were passing there, you know, when soldiers are in a vehicle, there are different numbers of soldiers per vehicle as per the nature of that vehicle. You may even find like a pickup, Land Rover or Land Cruiser. At the back, there is 6 or 8 soldiers. There are 6 or 8 soldiers, but in a tank, I've only been seeing 2 heads. There is one head that pops up somewhere in the front and then that on top of the vehicle. So when these vehicles were bypassing the main dais, they alighted from the vehicles the way manambas alight from a matatu before it reaches where it is going. They alighted and went to the dais and started shooting. They shot. There are some people who were hurt. I believe even the vice president then, Hosni Mubarak, was injured as a result. Because when Anwar Sadat was dead, his deputy was in the hospital and somebody else held it for a few hours, if not a few days. So that is what happened. And just the way you usually see at in nowadays, if you go to Uhuru Garden, I don't think there are as many vehicles as it used to be. There was allegation that he was killed because he was a black Arab. There was some allegation which claims that he was killed because he was a black Arab. We have white Arabs and black Arabs. Now, what is the difference between black Arabs? If you Google and ask for a picture of a Sudanese Arab, and you Google and ask for an Arab from Saudi Arabia or even the the Emirates and so on, you'll find that the Sudanese and quite a number of Egyptian Arabs are black as Africans, as black as Negroes. In Egypt, there is a mixture of white and black Arabs. But in Sudan, almost all Arabs are black Arabs. In Sudan, it is very hard to find a white Arab, but in Egypt, it is easy. Because if you want to differentiate between a black Arab and a white Arab in Egypt, just Google to see the picture of Anwar Sadat and of his vice president, Hosni Mubarak. You'll find that Mubarak is a white Arab and Hosni Mubarak is a black Arab. How did black Arabs come to be? Black Arabs came to be in that during the time of slave trade, Africans were kidnapped, both men and women. Now, Africans who went to other places, e.g., America, they stayed among themselves and came up with the black Americans. But there was also cases of whites in America converting the black slaves into their mistresses. And when they converted the black women slaves to be their mistresses, they gave birth to mulatto chotara. But according to these people, mulatto is half African, half Caucasian. But according to those people, if you are not 100% Caucasian, then you must be a Latino, you must be a mulatto, or you can even be a black American, so long as you are not 100% white. So that is what happened to men, black men in America. They started their own families with black women, and black women, some of them were mistresses of, and brought in the colored people. But, and that is when I just say that sometimes uh, Waarabu walikuwa watu wabaya. What Arabs used to do, you know, the number of blacks who were taken into slaves, they they may be equal. The ones who are taken from the East Coast may be as equal as those who are taken from West Coast. But all or most of the black men were castrated. Either all or most of them were castrated. Because they were even given work, like, yeah, they were even given work, like even washing the women of the Arabs. So they were castrated. And that is why those slaves who went to Arabian Peninsula, blacks, I mean, the rest, the male race just died that way. But the female race were taken in, not even as workers or anything. You see, if the Arabs would, when they take a slave, like Tipo, they would take that black as a slave and castrate him. When he dies or gets old or something like that, they go back to Africa to get more young men as slaves. So that is why you'll never find Africans in Arab Peninsula. But then there are these African women who gave birth with Arab men. And that is when they came up with the black Arabs. Those who are found in Khartoum and those who are found in parts of Egypt. So there is an allegation which needs more research that one of the reasons why Anwar Sadat was hated is that he was a black Arab. That one, those are some of the information you may not get in Google. So I'll now start talking about the history of Anwar al-Sadat. He was born on Christmas Day, 1918. Christmas Day, 1918. 25th December, 1918. He joined the military and he was one of the members of the free officers who overthrew King Farouk I of Egypt in 1952. This group of free officers were led by Colonel, I'm avoiding using the word colonel, they were headed by Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser. Uh, they were headed by Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser. He made Anwar Sadat to be his vice president twice, which means I've never known what they mean by that. But you see, Arab Moi made Saitoti his vice president twice. That is, Arab Moi stayed for some time without a vice president and later on reinstated Saitoti as a vice president. Could be that way because nobody mentions anybody who was the vice president in the interim. So he was the vice president of Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser, and when Nasser died, he became the president on 15th October 1970. While still talking about Abdel Nasser, He was a colonel. He was liked by Arabs almost the way black Africans like Nelson Mandela. I say so because he was very liked, but if I have to compare with Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela was liked more. But we could say along those levels. And he was a colonel in the army. Those are the people who overthrew the government, and they were not like other military officers who overthrew later. Because those who overthrew the government later, you'll find that he overthrows the government when he's a colonel. By the time he retires, or is sacked, or is overthrown, or he dies, or whatever, by the time he leaves office, he is even a full general. Or if it's like a minis or a field marshal. So that is how he stuck to the, and people admired his socialism, especially people in the Arab world. They liked his socialism. In Arab, we have sheikh who are rich and whatever, and they used to inherit their whatever. So he brought in socialism, which was an equalizer. So he was admired by very many in the Arab world. That is why in 1969, when yes, he was a Lieutenant Gaddafi overthrew the government of Libya. Uh, he, re- he, he, he promoted himself from lieutenant to a full colonel. And he stayed forever. Actually, he stayed as the president of Libya for a very long time without promoting himself to any other rank. I can even say that those people who were recruits or they were cadets when he became the president and made himself a colonel, they went up to become even generals in the Libyan army, but he stuck there. But if you look at his uniforms, he used to change uniforms. He even could wear the uniforms of a field marshal, but his shoulder badges just indicated that he was a colonel. That is why Gaddafi was forever known as colonel, because he got the name. He admired Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser. Now, as I've said, when now as I said Nasser was a socialist, but when Anwar Sadat took over, he started moving slowly towards capitalism. Started moving towards capitalism. That is the second thing that people believe may have caused for his death. I said people, the cause why he was killed, one was maybe because he was a black Arab. I'm also saying because he moved away from Al Nasser's political leaning of socialism and he went towards capitalism. But then, what people truly agree, those two, I'm saying black and also political movement and whatever, those are beliefs that people believe may have led. But what people are very sure is what he did in a peace talks with Israel. You remember during the during the 6 Day War, he was the minister for defense of Egypt during the 6 Day War, and Egypt was the first one to be hit hard by Israel, and Egypt was the first one to withdraw from the war, leaving Syria exposed. Then he becomes the president. First of all, before he becomes the president, it is also in Egypt. You know, Egypt and Syria, there was a time they even considered themselves to be one country. And then they used to call themselves United Arab Republic. Then they moved out of Arab Republic. They moved out of 64, not 64, the 6 Day War. They moved out of the 6 Day War. There were so many things that could be associated with him. Could be associated with him. 6 Day War, he was the Minister for Defense. When he was the Vice President, they moved out of United Arab Republic. He's now the President. In 1978, he went to Israel and met the Israeli Prime Minister who was called Menachem Begin. The three of them, Menachem Begin, Anwar Sadat, and the then President of the USA, Jimmy Carter, started a peace talks where Egypt became very close to Israel. Now, because of time and whatever, I'll, when I will talk, I will leave some of the things hanging because if I have to talk about it, I have to talk about 2 to 3 hours. But this is what I'm saying. Do you know that the Gaza Strip used to belong to Egypt? But Israel overran the Gaza Strip, overran the Sinai, and went up to, they were overlooking Africa at the Suez Canal. Now, Israel had to give back the Sinai Peninsula. But then instead of Israel giving back Sinai Peninsula to Egypt, not the Sinai Peninsula, instead of Israel giving Gaza Strip to Egypt, it was agreed that they pacify the Palestinians by giving it to them. That is why you find that Palestine is divided into two. There is the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. So when you have to go, you have to cross another country before you reach your own country. That is how it was. So even though he was being blamed for talking to the enemy or to the devil, if that is what can be said, but that is the major point that led to hatred among Arabs. And he's lucky that fanatism then was not like a fanatism like today. Today we have so many Islamic fanatic organization more than that time. But my viewers, that is the story of how he was killed and how it is related to disarming the soldiers when they are going for parades. Thank you.